Jamie Shanks, Mastering Social Selling. Is that right?
Yeah.
And he's one of the world experts on the topic of how to use LinkedIn to make money in your business. So I will turn him loose. I'm going to be taking notes here. He's one of the best.
Fantastic, everybody. And Ken had posed me a question, and he had asked me to answer what am I and our business passionate about. And Ken and I share a commonality of the education space. And Ken's taught me a lot about give, 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 give. Don't even ask in return, and the law of reciprocity will come back and help. And it's a little bit of what I want to touch on, but we're in the education space. And what we're passionate about is changing the way that sales professionals learn. And I think that the model today is a little broken, and that's what we're trying to address. And so if you look at the current sales professional, they're learning all kinds of tactical skills, soft skills, cold calling, emailing, a little bit of sales process, but they haven't evolved to where the buyer has evolved. The buyer has changed dramatically faster than the sales professional has themselves. And I mean, this is just a slide full of stats, but let's talk about some of the most important ones. The reality is that almost 60% of the buying process is happening without Ken and I. It's happening before they're engaged with our organization. And in fact, 3/4 of deals are awarded to the sales professional that is first to add value and to help out. And of course, there are way more people in the buying journey now. There are 5.4 people estimated by the CEB. What is this all telling me? That the world has changed, but our sales professionals have stayed status quo. And so we want to change this. Here's the problem. A sales professional is given a LinkedIn account, given a Twitter account, given a Hootsuite account, and they have absolutely no idea where to go with it. So what happens is sales enablement, the VP of marketing, the VP of sales, they all scratch their heads, they get together and they say, we need to figure out a way to drive more adoption and return on investment out of our LinkedIn accounts, as an example. So what are the two first paths that happen? Path number one, let's find the smartest guy in our office who seems to actually understand LinkedIn and teach everybody else. Or sales enablement will develop their own curriculum. Okay, so at InsideSales.com, you remember Gabe, the smartest social selling guy I'd ever met. Gabe, self-taught guy, can teach others in the organization. The flip side is that what happens is sometimes companies will bring in a consultant. Dog and pony show will happen for a half a day or a day, and it's expected that the sales professionals are going to walk away and absolutely drive business with tools like LinkedIn and Twitter. Here's the failure of both of those models. Model number one is only as good as the baseline knowledge of the best person within your organization and their ability to disseminate this information out to an entire ecosystem of sales reps. Not very scalable, okay? Basically a brain dump. The second is even scarier. You truck in a consultant to do a half a day show. What ends up happening 2 weeks later is they retain 10% of what they've learned. So what you have not done is changed behavior. And this is so important because a month or two later goes by and the same activities are happening on LinkedIn, which is not a lot. The real value here is to take your core performer. So at the end of the day, you've got 3 types of sales reps in your office. Person A is the rock star. No matter what they do, they're going to be a rock star. They'll figure out LinkedIn on their own. And then you have the laggard. They have half a foot in, half a foot out of your business. Can't really change that behavior. What we want to concentrate on is the 70%. Your average performer, who if we just raise the bar of education a little bit, can have dramatic results on a compounding of all of the sales professionals that you have. And that's what we want to develop a program for. So for ourselves, when we developed our social selling program, we realized one thing. I am not smart enough to come up with all the social selling ideas around the world, nor are all of the employees that work at my company. What we wanted to do was empower the world to provide us the best practices and insights to develop a curriculum that is changing and is always dynamic. This is so critical because it's the sales rep in Australia or in London, England, or in Mexico City that's actually providing new tips, tricks, and tactics back into the market to fuel the way that future sales reps run with a social selling program. That's the first tip that I can give you. If you're going to build an internal social selling program, you need to not only leverage the smartest person in your office, but you need to leverage everybody. And I would recommend, of course, leveraging outside of your office, because this crowdsourcing model works like a charm. You're getting ideas that your company would never have thought possible from various industries or various verticals, like an inside sales rep teaching an account manager, all because of crowdsourcing. The second is you have to understand the way a human learns. A human learns 3 different ways. You learn by watching, you learn by hearing, and you learn by doing. And you need to create a program that tackles all 3, because certain people learn different ways. I, as an example, learned through YouTube. I learned to tie a bow tie through YouTube. But not everybody learns that way. And so what we had to develop was a thing called a learning loop, because people need repeat, 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 and you have to give them one little tip or 2 or 3, and then you build upon it like a staircase. Every week, you're adding more and more, and then testing that they understand this. So the way the learning loop works is it's a blend of human intermixed with technology. I'm a believer that e-learning by itself can only bring a company so far. You need the human interaction to bring context into learning. So for us, we have instructor-led learning. We have e-learning, which is filled with videos and quizzes and guides, and I mean, that's what a learning management system does. But that still only tackles, that's like being a passenger in a car. You're watching other people teach you things. Now you need to bring in the doing. And that's where you can have mentored learning, meaning you have, just like in university, open class times where any sales professional in your ecosystem can call in every single day with an idea or a tip or a challenge to flesh out. And then what we had to do is develop a tool that bolts into these, like LinkedIn, Twitter, and Hootsuite. We created a web extension, a browser extension that goes on top of LinkedIn that helps answer questions as you're in your native tool, because that's the action, that's the doing. If you don't have all the 3 different ways that human learns, you're missing a whole chunk of sales reps that will never actually learn anything new, because that's not how they learn. So it's really important that if you're going to ever do this yourselves, you have to tackle, and what are we passionate about? Changing human behavior and making people smarter and better. So Ken, this is what we're passionate about. We as a business want to change so that every sales professional in the world, every deal, every day is incorporating some form of social to help the buyer through their buyer journey. But if they don't know how to do it, our job is to create a methodology and a process to ensure that it's easy for a sales professional to learn these new behaviors. That's who we are, guys. Any questions in the audience? Any thoughts?
If someone was going to get started with some of the things that you've learned, where would you tell people to begin? Let's say before they engage and they just want to get them going, what are the first few things you'd have them do? Start with just sales rep first, and then answer the corporate one as well, if you don't mind.
So if I'm a sales professional, let's ignore the ecosystem of my company, and I want to be the best myself. Where I need to understand, I need to go through a bit of a mindset shift on LinkedIn, as an example. I need to understand that I am a digital newspaper, and I can't treat my LinkedIn profile the same way that I treat Facebook. See, Facebook came first. We all got on Facebook, and we added anywhere between 50 and 150 friends. I think that's the average. It's classmates, it's friends and family members and so forth. But it's a closed circuit. The people need to understand that LinkedIn is an open circuit, and that every person that you add into your digital newspaper only adds incremental value to your brand and business. So many sales professionals will have a pushback and say, I don't know this person. Why would I add them into my network? And I'd say, Tony Shea at Zappos would say it takes on average 1.5 to 2 years to monetize those second-degree connections that turn into first-degree connections. Could 2 years down the road turn into something? You don't know who these people become. So it doesn't hurt you to treat yourself like a newspaper, bring in subscribers, and then continue to share great ideas, because they'll introduce you to people in their company or their network. So the first thing that you could do is open up your mind to treating social different than you've traditionally treated social. I know that's not really a tip, so I'll give a tip now. So if I wanted to actually drive revenue, the first thing that I would do is build an advanced search based on people that no longer work at our existing client success stories. So I download an entire list of every company that my business has ever done business with, and I would use the advanced search under what's called, it's under the company search, and it would say past, not current. It's a hidden drop down that appears when you put in a search. Look for past, not current, and it will pull you a report of everyone that used to be, as an example, use InsideSales.com, used to be an advocate and a user of InsideSales.com, but for whatever reason, they hated their manager or they got more money at a new company, they up and left and went somewhere else. I'm going to monetize those that have been active users of my solution that move on somewhere else. This simple system, I have a meeting, a client of ours booked a meeting today, and she is the student, sent out this meeting to sent out showing the meeting to everyone on the sales team saying, oh my God, this actually works. And it does, because these were people that know your brand, used your brand, most likely to want to bring that into their new ecosystem, their new company. So that's the company level. I've been babbling, so I'll go to the corporate level. The corporate level, there's 2 initiatives, and if you don't have either of these initiatives, don't even bother starting with social selling. Number 1 is management buy-in. No social or any training program works unless at the top there's belief that this is going to work. If managers are talking out of the side of their mouth and saying, I don't really think this social selling thing works, the sales rep who wants to emulate the manager thinks, well, why am I really doing this? They're not being monitored. They're not. Their KPIs aren't being evaluated. You can only lead a horse to drink, but you can't dunk her head, right? So without management, it doesn't work. And the second piece is marketing. Marketing is the cornerstone to all of social selling. Conversion funnels, building a content library, having all of the pieces of marketing assets connect to each other so they're driving marketing and sales qualified leads. If marketing's not involved, then all the sales reps are doing are sharing other people's content or ideas, and it's not driving new leads into the business. So.
It's not often that we get Jamie here, so we got a little bit more time. I'm going to ask him a few more questions, if that's all right. We've got a lot of people dialing in, wanting to hear. You're an expert in the world of LinkedIn. Where are you going with Twitter? Have you played with that much yet?
Yeah. So Twitter, it's interesting. So sales professionals, many will push back on Twitter and say, my buyer isn't on Twitter. And that's fine. What's really important about Twitter is to understand that it is the single greatest content source on the planet. And so if you have the ability to aggregate all the noise that's on Twitter, creating lists, creating file structures, seeing influencers, there's a whole new system in Twitter on the left side where you can use timelines to identify Twitter lists. You can identify the influencers of a specific topic. That's the real benefit of Twitter. You can never complain that you can't find enough content because of a tool like Twitter. Now, if you are in an industry that absolutely has not a single decision maker on Twitter, I wouldn't spend my time trying to drum up business using the tool. I would use it as a content aggregator.
Jamie, one of the things that I've done early on, and you and I've compared notes on some of those early Forbes articles that I did on LinkedIn tips. The biggest question I still get asked all the time, and I can't believe I get asked it, but you were one of those who helped me round the corner a long time ago on the value of buying a premium or a sales navigator account for LinkedIn, and the value will you tell that story again of the value you were able to get per lead, meaning the ROI on leads that you were generating through the premium accounts of LinkedIn, and why it's just such an indispensable?
Yeah. Absolutely. So I'm a believer in crawl, walk, run, fly. Sales professionals, if you can't figure out how to monetize the free account, premium it's not going to help you, nor would Navigator. But if you understand how to use these tools effectively, Navigator and premium, astronomically better than is the free, for a variety of different reasons, because you can segment data and make your life so much easier and enrich the environment that you're using. But as an example, when I had met Ken, and I was telling this story, 2 years ago at an AAISP event in Dallas, I had told people, myself and clients of ours in the SAP VAR ecosystem that we were doing inside sales projects with, 1 out of every 5 messages that they were sending was turning into not only a positive result, but a next step. And it's because they were learning how to use, at the time, InMails or within the group messaging system, learning how to use the tool effectively. There's a theory that crap in is crap out. So if you're just zip driving your same emails that aren't working and you think you can apply it to a different medium, it's not going to work. But now you have an environment that has a one-to-one messaging system. It has what's called double potency, actually. It goes to InMail and LinkedIn, and it gets emailed to the person. You have this one-to-one communication vehicle that has no gatekeeper, right? It's tied to the person's mobile phone. There's nobody answer. It's not like email or phone where somebody's answering that information sometimes. This is a one-to-one communication vehicle that you have with people of any size of company. So, but a premium user has the ability to quickly develop a list, use these InMails, do all these things. Fantastic tool, right?
That's great. You know, one more thing, and this is where we always start, but so many people overlook it, and that is some of the cool tips that you've learned around building your profile to match your purpose in social selling. Do you mind giving us some fun ideas around what you would do with your own profile to really ratchet up the opportunities?
So there are 3 components to a LinkedIn profile that is tied to search engine optimization, and the first is the headline. And whenever I have a student try to change their LinkedIn headline, I would ask them, if you and I met in an elevator and we had 10 floors to go up, if I asked you, what do you do for a living? Whatever your response is supposed to be your value proposition, your elevator pitch. That's what a headline's supposed to look like, not sales rep at company ABC. You have to understand that every component and every word that you put in your headline, same in your summary and in your skills section, are all SEO matched, and especially in your summary and your skills section, they're hyperlinked. So you have the ability to tie searches for core words that your buyer cares about directly to, and if you own your own LinkedIn URL, you have the ability to tie it to Google. And everything that you do in LinkedIn is better improving your personal brand and corporate brand on Google. So,
you know, I haven't asked you this, but we're asking every one of our thought leaders. So Gerhard, you can be getting ready for this. Why do you love Salesforce? What is it about? I mean, they've done so much for all of us. Maybe you can talk about that for just a minute.
I was saying this to Ken yesterday, that we've been a Salesforce user for in and around 10 years. Not only just my own company, but even companies I was an employee at. And I have CRM vendors call me all the time and say, you know, we could discount the prices. Why don't you join? Why don't you test? And I would say, not only would you have to give me a free account, you would have to pay me thousands of dollars a month to use your tool rather than Salesforce, because I've been using it for so long and it's been generating our business so much money, I'm not going to switch. So what it means to me is it is like there are a few core tools that I have open all day long. Salesforce is one of those, and on my mobile phone or on the computer, and I would never, frankly, I just wouldn't change. So it's the easiest way to look at it.
Any questions, anybody? All right, let's give Jamie a hand. This has been great. Really appreciate you joining us today,